Oh, I think Yvonne's just, no, we're going live.
Yeah.
Yep, it says we're live on YouTube.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Slightly Slanted Sleuth. I'm joined with Phil right now, Phil Langdon. He's been on my channel many times. We've talked many times, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with him. We're still waiting on YVONNE Gordon. Hopefully she shows, but he had some trouble getting on. So, Phil, how you doing, bud?
I'm very good. Thanks, man. I'm very, very well. Yeah, I'm really glad to be here again. This is always good to talk to you, man.
You too, brother. You too.
Thanks.
Yeah, but today I've been struggling with a little bit of hay fever, so forgive me if I'm sneezy or my nose is running, or if I get some slag on the screen. I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I have real bad allergies.
Right.
So what do you think we should get into today, Phil?
Yeah. We just said there's just been a title on the screen before coming onto Zoom. I think, did you put that title in? Is ascension necessary for is truth necessary for ascension?
Yeah, is truth essential for ascension? Yes.
That's it. Yeah. So I just wanted to touch on that subject first of all. If you can see my phone, I've got my phone here. This is what I've put on my home screen. Can you see that very well? Oh no, it's not very clear, is it?
Not very clear, no.
Okay, it's Titian's painting of the Ascension of the Virgin. I think it's in a church in Florence. I think it's Florence. And it shows a lady dressed in red and blue standing on a cloud with the apostles below her, as if she's ascending to heaven with God receiving her above. See?
Okay.
So in the New Age community, the word ascension is normally associated with finding one's spiritual self. Oh, hello, Gordon. Hello, Yvonne.
Hi, Yvonne.
You're right.
You're right. Keep going, guys. I'm listening about the ascension. So
all right. Okay. Okay. So just to continue and just to finish off, the New Age movement associates ascension with the kind of spiritual awareness you can have. If you listen to Eckhart Tolle, for instance, he's very good at separating your psyche issues from your presence. So
does somebody have their volume up? I'm hearing feedback.
Yeah, I'm hearing double.
How do I do it? This is the first time. Do I just turn it off?
Just turn your volume down, I think. Do you have two devices going right now?
Okay.
That's better.
Okay.
That's better.
Okay. All right. That's all right. Hi. Well, just to say welcome, Yvonne. It's really nice to have you here.
Yes, it is. I'm elated to have her here.
Yeah. I'm very pleased to meet you.
Can she hear us?
I'm not sure. She's got earpiece. You have to put an earpiece in. Okay. Can you hear us okay with the earpieces in, Yvonne?
I'm trying right now.
Okay.
Perfect.
I still hear you twice.
Yeah, we don't hear you twice, though.
No.
Okay.
that's kind of so you're hearing echo on your end? Weird.
No.
Yeah, I'm okay.
If you can deal with it, we can deal with it.
Okay.
Okay.
But we were just saying we were happy that you're here, and thank you for joining us.
Who are you talking to?
Okay.
You're welcome. I'm just talking to my daughter right now. I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right. All right. I'll just carry on briefly, and then we can sync up as we go through. So I was just saying, if you're familiar with Eckhart Tolle, he focuses on being aware of your presence by itself and not engaging in your psyche and its drama. A lot of teachers will talk about that for obvious reasons, because it's true. Your presence is the presence of love itself. So this is the nature of your spirit. It's not necessarily intellectual. And there's an association with that in terms of ascension. So when people listen to Mr. Tolle, they associate the idea that he is now ascended See, but truly, if you go back in history, the nature of the word ascension is literally to ascend, to rise to heaven. And in a sense, you can associate it with becoming aware of yourself as presence, because that's the starting point for finding God effectively. You can take it as a starting point for finding God, because you really need to relax completely. God has nothing to worry about. So you could imagine that God is very, very relaxed and easygoing. So, and you matching that is going to give you the ability to become aware of God directly, you know. And I don't hear that from Mr. Toll, which I find very interesting. So I just wanted to clear up the fact that even on Facebook, there are many, many groups that are called Ascension, Ascension this and Ascension that. But I don't know whether they're aware of the true nature of the word. See,
Yep.
I'm not sure. And I don't know how seriously other people take me, because I'm telling them things that they don't normally talk about. Do you see what I mean? Do you get my drift?
Oh, I totally get your drift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand.
So Yvonne, now that you're here, I've been watching a few of your videos, and I was interested to know where it came from that you were able to understand what you're reading in the Bible.
You talk about the singularity. It came to reaching that root of my soul. You come to the end of your own mind, even if it's only temporarily, and then you know that everything you see from that point on is from that single point.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that. Totally relate to that, because it took for getting to that point, as it were, to open up the idea that the variety that we have to engage with in reality, it all has the same root. Is a singular root to all of it. So it is all connected. It is all part of one thing, as it were. Yeah.
Right.
Is what she just described, the singularity, the same as how the extent is the ultimate interior? You know what I mean? Like how our mind becomes is it the same relationship? I mean, is it, you understand where I'm going with that question, Phil? As far as the physics of it, how you say we reach the outer by the inner, the in is the out is the in. Is that is maybe you can explain, Yvonne?
I got there, believe it or not, through a fast. For a whole year, I needed to lose a lot of weight, and I didn't eat, and I had to turn over all those emotions, those thoughts, to stay in peace, that. And after a year of doing that, I guess I had redeemed the time, as they call it in the Bible. So I was no longer living out here. I was kind of like narrowing in, sort of like Jonah's experience, belly of the whale. And I just learned everything from the inside out, just like you would in nature, like from the root forward after that. It's not that my mind stayed awake, because after a few years, it all came back. But it came back with the understanding of how things work, how nature works.
Did you go to college, university? Did you go that route, Yvonne, or did you? I mean, were you a studious person, or were you happy-go-lucky and a housewife? For instance.
I've heard that question now 6 times, even though you only said it once. Yes, I do. I do actually have a counseling degree, and which did help me to understand, human psychology.
Yeah.
But as Freud says, the id is something no man can change. even though you can change the conscience, the subconscious and the conscious mind, the id I saw as being that root. And that's the belly of the whale to me. And the only thing that can change it is if you enter it and find the light in it.
Right. So
And
to
then
me,
the
because
light
it always
transforms you.
Yeah, that's okay. There was always an issue because I read there are 8 different forms of the ego, or there are 8 aspects to it. I mean, I'm not really an expert on the depths of psychology as such. I get the the framework of it. I know the ideas. I know the great work and the hero's journey and the searching and the dark night of the soul. It sounds like you had a dark night of the soul there. Really, where you dig so deep in yourself that you find the root within yourself, as it were. Somehow. I guess it's
like
going to be
Saint John
different.
of the Cross, right?
Say again. Like John of the Cross.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be unique and different for everybody, but of course we all find the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, and you can find the truth in yourself, I guess, if you get behind your own psychology, or you could say that you find it intellectually. You see, so for me, finding God has nothing to do with the intellect, and yet God is the root of that truth as well. So there's a connection there. And personally, for me, I went through the heart first, and the wisdom and the oneness of God exploded in my mind and told me the intellectual understanding of it, as it were, in that direction. See, so different people come to it differently. I saw a young girl in her, I think she's about 13 or 14, and she has a video on YouTube where she can't stop crying, and she's talking about having experienced heaven and become aware of God in that state. And it was so overwhelming to her that she can't stop crying. And I can totally relate to that as well. Did you have bouts of crying after this, Yvonne?
Yeah, I haven't stopped. And that was 28 years ago. But they say, blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted.
Yeah.
But no,
right.
Definitely. First, I actually saw the light for 2 years. I had an experience of just beauty and love and light. And I said, oh, this is what they were all talking about,
Right.
And, but within 2 years, suddenly I went into judgment, and it's like the ground opened up and it swallowed me. And it says the Virgin of Israel, it goes underground, because I got to the root, and it was real black, and it was completely nothing.
Yeah.
So that was then, but I had those 2 years to cling to. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I understood that the light is given to us first so that we could endure this darkness.
Yeah.
This separation between black and white, life and death, evil and good, and all that.
Yeah. The tree of good and evil we're in here.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
it's that simple. Not really that interesting after a while.
It's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because I honestly believe that you two are probably the only two I know that are enlightened, or have experienced what I guess most humans are here to experience. And is that our true purpose in life? Do you think? I mean, is to experience.
I want to ask Phil a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since your experience, have you found that you suffer less or more?
Far less. Far less. Okay. I had to hesitate for a moment there, because I love understanding things, and I wanted to because I could see these insights were going to take time to open up and develop. I had an impatience over that, which I got used to, and I re-established my sense of patience over that. But then I had a step up, as it were, 8 months ago. I don't know whether you kept up with that, but the other part of me has turned up in my life. And that gave me an 8-month dark night of the soul in this state, which I found quite a surprise. And it was done for a reason. It was done to clean out an old wound. My heart was wounded many years ago, you see, and crushed.
Right.
And that left a scar that hadn't been cleaned properly. And now I've had that done. So I'm completely healed of my past, as it were. I didn't expect that. So
Right.
there has been this 8-month period which has been quite trying because the energies involved were quite overwhelming. So that was a surprise. But apart from that, I've been blissfully happy, and I'm always blissfully happy anyway, fundamentally now, as opposed to before when I was fundamentally unhappy.
Oh, yeah.
Really, truly, because I felt there was something missing, and once I'd found it, there was nothing missing, and there's nothing missing ever again, as it were. So there's nothing but contentment. See?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest difference between other paths that when I read about them is that it seems like they go up and then they kind of like become enlightened. Whereas I think the Christian path is more when you see Jesus on the cross, you see like these two thieves, one goes with him and the other one goes back to the earth. And that other one is what I think, like the Apostle Paul is talking about. Satan kept buffeting him. It's like his dark side that he has to correct now with the goodness that he sees from heaven. And so there's like a plumb line from heaven to earth that goes like north and south, right? But then the east and the west have to be completed. Do you know what I'm saying? Am I
Yeah,
making
I
sense?
do. Yeah.
I've got a question from Chad, if you guys don't mind. Joyce, are you serious? Asks, do all beings on this planet have spirit or soul? And she comments because there are some really wicked beings on this planet. And then and then after that, add to that question is, do all souls come from the same source? There seems to be duality, positive and negative outcomes.
You want to try first?
Okay, yeah. All souls come from the same source. The only issue is what you engage with. Are you engaging with your psyche and its drama, or are you disengaging from your psyche and recognizing you are pure spirit anyway? Once you do that, you don't engage with the drama, and you don't behave in a, let's keep it simple, you don't behave in a bad way anymore. You're not selfishly driven. That separation removes the selfishness and the recognition that you're an eternal being. And then the question is far greater, what are you going to do with eternity? That's a greater question than to think, what are you going to do with the next 5 minutes in your psyche and its drama? It's a completely different awareness, as it were. So if most people on the planet are very much engaged with their psyche and their physical life, so that's where they're at. You know, that's where their mind is focused and engaged with. And because of it, they're going to encounter competition automatically, and competition challenges the ego.
Mm-hmm.
So are you ego driven? Are you ego focused or not? It's as simple as that, in my opinion.
Well, the ego doesn't go after it returns, but now you've got something to work with to manage it. Whereas before it was like everything. It was your light that, it was your darkness that thinks it's the light.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
and so, so afterwards, that it's not your light.
Yeah.
And you feel very uncomfortable when you're in it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But you know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
That's the big difference.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And I believe in terms of that answer, I think I remember what the question was. Everybody that's here has to find their root, or has to find their basic truth. so that they can overcome their basic lie.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really as simple as it is. I believe
Yeah.
that that's what it means to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. Totally. Very
And
simple put.
do all beings on this planet have a spirit or soul?
You are spirit. You are
Yeah, okay.
spirit, soul.
So everyone
That's
on
what
this
you are.
planet has a spirit or soul.
Yeah, that's what you
Right.
are already. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you. To me, this is how I understand it. And tell me if I'm wrong. That the ego is, like you've said in the past, Yvonne, is a placeholder or a thing to keep you alive long enough to find your spiritual truth. Is that break it down simple? I mean, is that right?
Definitely. Without your ego, you'd be fodder for, you wouldn't have anything to protect you until you find your truth, your source, your
Yeah.
strength. You need your ego to help you while you're here when you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're trying to protect yourself. But once you have your truth, you don't need that protection the way you did before.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. That was a beautiful little discussion there. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And somebody asks, are there non-player characters? This is a big thing on the internet. People like to think that there's just drones out there that are just acting upon the system. I guess it would be a software type matrix, simulation thing where
Mhm.
there's just non-player characters that are humdrumming around making the moves. What do you guys say to that? I mean,
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
I think you've already answered this, but
Well, I to be honest, I wouldn't know. I honestly wouldn't know. If somebody had made an android that nobody knows about, we're not going to know. I think people can go around on automatic pilot a lot, and they can appear to others to be non-engaging. But every person, as far as I know, every person is spirit, soul, engaging with the body to find their true self. That's the principle that's going on here. And just look at the world. It's been a long time since anything nice has happened to a lot of people. I was watching a program just an hour before about the history of America in New York and how filthy the city was in the 1900s. 12 people squashed into a tiny apartment, this kind of thing. There's not enough of a pleasant experience for people way back when to even start thinking about divinity or things like that. And what do they have? They had the Bible. So they're clinging on to this, this idea they have while living in squalor, having a really bad time. It all adds up to a great confusion and mess mentally. The world has changed enormously in the last century, and we're heading in a good direction, I think, a better direction. Yes, there's horrors in the world that are worse than before. However, we have a great potential here with the internet and communications to help each other understand things better and develop each other, this kind of thing. So I think we're marching in the right direction.
My daughter, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I just lost track of the original question.
I guess I'll just interject here. Like, my daughter likes to deconstruct and reconstruct everything and make it prettier. I don't. I like to keep everything real basic because I don't like to fix anything. So it's like, it's good. It's only been this way for 30 years, no problem.
Yeah.
I think that people, they want to make things better and better. And the more people that have found their root and found their truth are working to make things better and better. And those who haven't found it yet, they're benefiting, but also resisting because they feel like someone's over them and they feel like someone's pushing them in ways they don't want to be pushed.
Yeah.
You know how, like, if you had strict parents and they're like, you can't do that, but I want to do that, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But are there, all these other, I can't tell you about those things. I don't know. I mean, I don't concern myself about them because it doesn't help me. If it did, I would be on it day and night. That's how I am,
That was going to be
Yeah.
my next question or remark or statement was, from both of you guys, I gather exactly what you just said, where if it doesn't benefit you, why even subject yourself to it? And
Yeah.
if you cannot change it yourself by yourself, I mean, why you can concern yourself with it, I see, but you can't dwell in it or because it'll get you nowhere, right? I mean, the drama is everywhere around us as well as inside of us. And,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that? You just don't, right?
Well, you always, for me, I try to every day do what I can. And even though it's very limited now because I'm old and I'm sick most of the time, but like if you can do what you can do and you're comfortable with the way you're choosing your thoughts, the way you're handling yourself, then you have peace. And then you can believe that others can find that. If you don't have it, you really can't believe that others can find it. You just think nobody's ever going to be happy. No one's ever going to be at peace because you haven't found it, So
The two things that come to my mind. One is that when you present somebody with an idea that you're saying is reality or true that you've established, and they haven't established it to themselves, they have no idea if you're telling them the truth or trying to push some idea onto them. It's that resistance Yvonne just mentioned is, hang on a minute, I need to figure that out for myself. Don't force me to agree with you immediately. There's this issue as well. I had that on my mind mostly when I started talking about the light, because I knew what I was up against. And I thought, well, I'll try and passively explain why I know it's probably the case, instead of saying, this is the case, you have to accept it. Otherwise, here are your marching orders, because you're dealing with people's free will, you're dealing with people's egos as well. And they need to know that what you're saying is true or right somehow, that they can start appreciating it. But nobody likes anything forced on them, ever.
Exactly. I had a new awakening today that made me cry, and so I might cry if I say it.
Yeah.
As I watched my husband pass away the last 3 years, he wanted more than anything to just go outside and mow the yard again. And today I realized that when you come full circle, your corporal world is your holy ground. Whereas, I spent so many years interior, but now I'm like seeing that everything I had with my husband, with my doggies, my kids, that is my holy life. If I didn't finally realize that, I think I would have missed the greatest. What is that? I can't think of the word.
Isn't that what you just said something about that, Phil? That's being fully incarnate, isn't it? In the now.
I heard you say it 6 times, but I missed it.
I think Phil just shared something on the Facebook Ascension page stating something to that very effect that you just stated about being fully incarnate in the now, and that's what Jesus, the personification of Jesus's message was being in the now, right? I mean, isn't that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Right, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. Be present here now. As your spirit self, and be aware that your spirit engaging in a physical experience, that has all these things going on that are out of your control. You don't need to worry about that. Just maintain your presence. And I wanted to emphasize a bit of Eckhart Tolle recently on the page, because he's so good at demonstrating that.
I'm sorry, Phil.
Yeah.
If I go off and come back on, maybe I can lose that horrible echo.
That's totally fine.
All right. And you go ahead and talk and I'll be back. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
You were emphasizing about Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah. Because his thing is presence, and that's what he talks about. That's what he focuses on. That's what he wants to get people to recognize. That's like the first step for a person to separate themselves from their psyche and their thinking, because doing the great work, when you start doing that, one of the exercises, as it were, is to hold all your thinking and all these streams of knowledge you're pursuing at arm's length away from you, so that you do not engage in any of it emotionally. You see, that therefore you are free when you do that to think of anything and just come up with a scenario, and just like if something that happens to you today or yesterday, you might sit and have a little contemplation about it in the evening and start thinking, what if I said that? What if this happened? What if I did that? You know, you can analyze the issue of automatic responses against initiative. Because no matter what happens, a decent person can make it better. You know, if they take control of the situation, you know, and are positive, and they can see a decent outcome if they have some influence. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of the issues with this being and your sense that you are a spirit, you should be able to find your bliss like that and not have to worry about your thoughts, and recognize that you are, in a sense, the sky that your clouds of thinking move through and just disappear. You know, so sometimes the sky is blue, you're not thinking. Then you've got some clouds, that's you thinking about stuff. So you can use the outside world as a metaphor for your status, and realize that you are not your thoughts. And therefore, you are literally, essentially, divine presence already. Yeah, that's Eckhart Tolle's thing. And that's a great way to start recognizing that distinction, so that you don't end up becoming embroiled in your thinking. You know, always keep a separation from it. Know that they're just thoughts. And now you're free to relax and to even tune into stillness and go even further and find your true self, basically. So I appreciate Mr. Tolle's thing for helping people to find that state of relaxation in the first place, because that's a real big issue for people when I say find stillness, and they say, well, I meditate, I look at this, I look at the sun, I can't find stillness. Yeah, but are you really, really relaxing properly and stopping thinking and just recognizing your presence? Because when you do that, you start to wish, you start to crave the feeling of fullness in your stillness. I noticed with myself. See?
And to achieve that stillness, for me, I haven't even come close to it yet.
Yeah. Have you? Two questions. Are you empathic, Steve? Did you consider yourself to be an empath?
Where I can feel others' emotions and stuff and pick up.
Well, if you look at a creature walking past your garden, for instance, can you look at the creature and completely forget about yourself and look at its characteristics and start feeling how it might feel in that moment? Literally forgetting about yourself, being just an observer and becoming the characteristics of that creature, a bit like a shaman.
Not necessarily. I've never really been like that. No.
Right. So tuning into stillness is about empathizing with it.
Okay.
See, so it's the same principle as if you look at a creature. If you like, I love animals. See, so when I see an animal, I love watching them, and I'll forget about myself in that moment, and I'll kind of become like the animal in my mind. I'll just being like water, that Taoist concept. You know, when you be water, you can drip, you can trickle, you can crash like a waterfall. You've got all this different range of things that you can tune into, as it were, empathically tune into. So if you look at a candle light, when you're very relaxed and aware of your presence as divine, you can then find stillness. So you need to not want to do anything in that moment. You've got to want to be very, very calm and still and enjoy that, so you can stay there. See, so it's just an attitude as well. Do you know what I mean?
What you just described there, I get when I'm staring into a campfire. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah. Same kind of thing, but the light is flickering. So the light you want to be looking at has to be perfectly still.
Okay.
So that you can empathically appreciate the concept of stillness with light. And that will, if you trance into it, I use the word trance because I went into a trance when I was shown the light, that focused me in on that light only, and I completely forgot about everything else, literally everything else. And all I knew in that moment was still light. So I became that still light. I became the same as it in my awareness. And then I became aware that I was in heaven. See?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It was that simple. Very simple. It took about 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Yvonne, did you get rid of the echo?
I did. I kind of miss you guys. No,
Awesome.
I had a whole group full. No, it's nice and quiet, just the two of you now. So that's wonderful. I tell you, that was rough.
I bet. Well,
Hearing you all at 6 or
thanks
7 times.
for enduring.
Yeah, I didn't. I never had the ability to meditate, so I don't. It wasn't until like about 4 years ago that I had to learn it because I had to finish my work. As far as like, I suddenly came to this tail end of things. Remember how it says tail of Satan was cast out, and that's that carnal mind, that seed of the serpent in the Bible. And it was good that my heart was connected to the light, but like I was separated. The tail, you see Satan with a tail because he lost his legs, right? Well, the legs is the understanding. And so I really needed to gain my full understanding with this outer mind as much as I had it in my heart. I could only speak like a spiritual language. I could only speak the biblical language. I didn't know how else to express myself. And in within the last 4 to 6 years, I learned how to say it in all different kinds of languages, and just to be able to understand how I can speak to anybody about this if I had to. I prefer my language because that's how I was trained. We all have a language, and we like it resonates with our experience so much. But yeah, I mean, what was I saying? I don't even remember. It's something about, what did you ask me?
You were talking about the tail of Satan and
Yeah, getting his legs back, getting that full understanding of that man, that we are becoming, which is the image and likeness of the Creator, let's say. Because in the Bible, God is making this man, not male or female, but man, this thing that knows how to balance his energies, the yin yang, all that stuff. He knows how to balance his desires and his intention. And he understands himself from within. That kind of thing.
Yeah. You mentioned the spiritual language. When I hear you talking about the Bible, you see, I know you understand it immediately. And that the language in the Bible is uniquely spiritual. When I read it, it's different to everything else. It's unique. And that is my language as well, as it were. It's like a natural language that you relate to very much. So I completely relate to it. And I see that other religious languages, as it were, like Hinduism, sounds like more of an attempt to get more to the rational, to be able to communicate with regular people. Because the Bible is very difficult to understand if you have a regular sort of outlook and you don't grasp the spiritual language of it. Because it's there on purpose. There's nothing wrong with the Bible at all, nothing. No matter what I've heard about it, when I read the passage, I think, no, you've actually misunderstood. And you think that that's been written down on purpose to confuse people or to convey something that's not true. But in fact, you've misunderstood it. It's a very deep spiritual language in the Bible. And it's absolutely astoundingly beautiful as well. The depth of it, with just a few words, that it contains incredible depth.
Right. I agree. Yeah. And that's before I had my experience, I only knew how to read parts of it, and I just rejected what I didn't understand because I didn't want to not like God, but I didn't like a lot of the Bible. I mean, I have to be very honest. It was a very frightening book, especially the Old Testament, and I hated, judgment and hell and all that stuff. But once I went through all that, it was like, wow, that was necessary for me to understand how life works. It's like nature works like this. This isn't some kind of it's not just a myth. It's like the myth is about nature. It is about how we work from the inside out and how we overcome and how we live in peace within ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's right.
So, wow, that was quick, wasn't it? One of the things about me is that I'm uncomfortable talking to people. I guess you figured that out, but I was my nature before, my ego nature is very kind of like a people pleaser, and I just don't like it when people don't like me, gee. But, I've learned how not to worry about that, but like how to bring those two sides of me together in a spiritual way has been a real challenge. So I always tell slanted sleuth that I don't want to have, display kind of like this. Sorry,
You're doing excellent,
actually,
Yvonne.
it's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad, right?
You're doing excellent.
Yeah.
And since you're here, I'm just going to grill you now, and I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you straight out. When did you become so adept at understanding the Bible and its intricacies and all of the names and what they mean to our psyche, to our spiritual growth, and all of it? When did it just come to you one day, or did it gradually seep into your consciousness?
Well, when I hit that root, when I hit that darkness, I was in it for 3 years, and I didn't know how to get out. I didn't know how to shift myself out of it. And I think I could have gone mad if there hadn't been like this experience where there's something in me that said, speak. And then that's how I understood what prophecy was, because it's like, if any man speak, let him speak as an oracle of God. So it's like I didn't have a mind anymore, but I had this light in my heart. And as long as I spoke, I felt sane. But when I didn't speak, I kind of felt lost. And this was how I experienced the separation. And in time, around that time, my daughter's ex-husband brought me a Strong's Concordance. I didn't have an internet yet. And he said, I think you're supposed to have this. Now talk about the universe taking care of me, right? He gave me the Strong Concordance, and I immediately was drawn to the book of Jonah. And I started reading in Hebrew and in Greek to try to understand what those words really meant. And as they were clarified for me, I just began seeing this picture, this amazing picture of my experience. And it just kept growing and growing. And so the more I read, the more I understood what was happening to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I found a very similar thing going on with the Bible when I started reading it after the experiences 5 years ago. Very similar to what you're saying. As soon as you find something you can relate to, you start to realize the context and the real content of what's being spoken, and then you can associate it and start getting a very a decent picture of what is contained in these stories.
Right.
Really.
It really is like there's I don't know, you probably know this, Phil, about the meaning of da'at, which is in Hebrew in the Kabbalah tree, this big empty blackness. And it's really like it appears when you hit the crown, so to speak, so that you can fill it with light. It's almost like your heart gets that much bigger. They say the law is really 600 times bigger, so that you can start filling this greater understanding. It's almost like God makes a way for you to grow in dimension. In understanding, and you need this big emptiness to make room for it.
Yeah, that's it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Absolutely. My goodness me. And it does increase over time.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no answer without a question. There's got to be a new question, or you're not going to find a new answer.
Yeah, sure. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Any more questions? No.
Oh yeah, there's plenty.
Silly.
Now, a concept that just came up in chat we were talking about, somebody had brought up the Hermetic principle, as above, so below correspondence. Is that the same in the Bible as on earth as it is in heaven?
Yes. Because what the kingdom of heaven is within you, and that opens up and a spiritual war begins, because, the four horsemen of the apocalypse and everything. But it actually, now you are in the kingdom of heaven. And now as you confess and as you bring all these concepts together in this bigger way, you are bringing it to the earth. You're bringing it to the outer mind, right?
Yeah.
That's how you get the new earth. It's because it says, like in the book of Revelation, it says, and there was a flood cast out after the woman, the heart, to destroy the heart. But really it says the earth helped the woman. So your conscious mind starts working with your subconscious that's being cleansed, and it starts to readjust everything until you have a new heaven and a new earth, inner and outer.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I had a concern in the last few years whether I was going to be heard at all. And you know, people like you are going to be heard, because you can see the mainstream has an established view that if you don't conform to, they won't give you much airtime, or you won't get a lot of hearing, let's say. I would like to see people on this planet at least have access to people who actually know what they're talking about in the first place, like you're saying, so they can start to grasp it for themselves. I'd like to see people on Earth getting out of their own hell, you know, coming into their own light, and realizing for themselves that what we're talking about here is valid and useful.
Right. Right. That is so important. That's my biggest desire. And like you, I found there's just not that much interest in it. And it's because like there is that resistance called the world, or that spirit against love, really is what it is. It's because it needs to be there in order to develop individuals. But then like all those individuals have to somehow come back together again and realize that their root is love. That's the hard part, you know, and I think that's where we see the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't want that part. But I don't know, maybe more people do than we realize. I have hope that more people are drawn to love now than ever before. What do you think?
I sure hope so. I sure hope of all that's been going on globally would at least.
Phil!
What's going on? I thought you took a tumble. You got your reason.
It was just too much for him.
My laptop is overheating already. My goodness.
Oh my goodness. Okay, maybe we should end it pretty soon.
Nah. He can afford for his laptop to overheat, right, Phil?
Yeah, it's just normal. I've just put the piece back under it to cool it down.
She's got a special cooling system called a frozen bag of peas.
That's good. I like that. Right. I'll have to go get my peas.
Somebody asked in chat, Mary, it's Phil Langdon. That's his channel, and YVONNE Gordon is her channel name. And I've gotten some chatter from Thothanon in here about, you know, he's one of those guys that he's great in his meaning, yet he's always on the half empty side, if you know what I mean. He says that like, okay, so you ignore all the evil and bad in this world and believe in total fantasy, is one of the comments he said. Even the spiritual types do the same thing. And I responded, ignore not, concern maybe, dwell in it, not me. And this is why crooked police or others do evil in their neighbors and own families. They do nothing. And so what do you say to that? I mean, in his last comment was, has to be part of God's plan, punishment, demons, etc. Because everyone ignores it, lives in fantasy. So is that, you know, I mean, a lot of people are facing them issues right now.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to let Phil answer that, but I definitely want to address it. So go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's a lot of, it's very easy for people to think that everything is God's fault. That's not the case. You have free will. Everyone has individual free will. They do what they think is right or wrong, or whatever they want. And as we said before, if they're engaged in their psyche and their ego, they're going to want things for themselves and identify with accumulating finances or whatever to make themselves feel better about themselves and to fill the empty void they have inside because they haven't dealt with their inner person yet. You know, that's all it is in my mind. And people who do evil to others, that's their choice. You can do something about it yourself if it's being done to you. You can, you try and find a solution. There's always going to be a solution presented to you if you are honest about the nature of God, in the sense that God is always listening, and you do have a team behind you that are spirit, and they do help you out. They put ideas in your head. They set things up for you. There's all sorts of things that can happen for you and the spiritual level that a lot of people are not used to thinking about or expecting. They think it's all rubbish, so they just cancel everything out like that, and all of a sudden life is just mechanical, and it's all a big competition, and that's all they see. And then they start complaining, well, where's God? God doesn't care. And this goes on, and it's all wrong from the word go, you know, that all that thinking. It doesn't work like that at all. So people need to become more aware of the true reality that is available to them.
Okay.
That's what I think.
I have a kind of unique view on because of my psychology background. And I know that, like, I studied Erik Erikson, which gave me the phases of how an ego is developed. And I also studied Maslow in the hierarchy of needs. And so I know that every ego has to go through this hierarchy in order to come to the conclusion that this isn't where life is at. This is not where it's at. If it doesn't go through it, it doesn't grow in an organic way, then we become like robots. And God's not interested in robots. He's interested in us making a full, aware choice. So this world is like a horrible playground. It can be heaven or hell. And we're presented with every opportunity to fulfill that hierarchy of needs. In the top one, by the way, if you know that hierarchy, is love. But all the ones before, you know, the basic ones, food, you know, and then nesting and, you know, territorialism, and then you want money and stuff. That's real important, you know, like the more you have, the better you are. And then you get that and you're like, oh, I'm still not happy. And then you have to go through the phase of knowledge, which is a really long, difficult process. Because you got to look at all these ideas that are thrown out here, and you got to say, well, which one's the truth? Which one's the truth? And you can't find the answer until it resonates within you. And then finally it says, you know, prophecy and knowledge comes to an end, but love never ends. When you hit that final capstone, you come full circle and you realize that, okay, this is why I came here. This is what I came to learn. So everybody has to go through those phases. And if they don't, there's like, you can't graduate, you know, you need to know these things in order to come out of it, like a chick out of an egg. That's how I see it.
I would have said that as well, you know. Absolutely.
Because when you're stuck at a certain place, like you're stuck, you know, I want money, and you can be stuck on that for lifetimes. But, you know, you're not going to ever feel happy until you're really rich, but then you're still not going to feel really happy. You want more and more and more, because that's from the root of evil still. Even knowledge, which is where you come out of that root. If you don't resonate with the knowledge, it's just this burden of information, and you don't find any freedom in it. So it has to resonate through your heart.
Definitely.
And to add to that, does spirit, or does prayer and well, how did he put the question? Menza asks, does prayer help in any way? And if so, who do we pray or ask for help from? Our higher selves, God? You know, I know prayer for me has helped in the past. You know, for one, it was the Easter, and I had burned my arms to beyond recognition, and I was in casts, and it was over Easter vacation back when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I was supposed to have, you know, I would have had to have skin graft surgery, you know, because I had burnt my arm so bad. Well, I prayed and I prayed and I prayed for 3 weeks. And lo and behold, when they took the bandages off the last time, there was no scars, and no scars on my arm to this day. So I know prayer for me worked. You know, does it, in your guys' opinion?
I'm going to answer first. Phil, I usually give the floor to you, but for me, prayer is desire. It's like, I'm going to pray for what I want. And that's why desire is what goes through purification in us. If we don't want more and more higher things, our prayer is not going to change. But the more we grow through those other phases, our prayers change because our desire changes. And when we want to do the right thing, we've come home. But yeah, I mean, a prayer for healing is a very basic thing. And I think that anybody would have that, you know, I think. But the prayer for higher achievements, inner achievements like peace and joy and, you know, all that kind of stuff, that takes a little bit of experience of like what doesn't work. You know what I mean? It's almost like eliminating what doesn't work. That's that process of elimination again. And your prayers change because you realize that didn't give it to you, that didn't give it to you. But like healing, absolutely. Who doesn't desire healing? Everybody, I would think. Okay, Phil, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's cool. There's several different things I could say about that. For a start, there's self-affirmations. In the morning, for instance, if you self-affirm and you say things like, this is a typical thing on YouTube for self-help videos, I am worthy, I am good enough, I am love, etc., etc. These wonderful self-affirmations that just remind you that you're everything you need already. When you said you were praying for a decent healing, your thoughts are going to affect your physiology to a certain extent anyway. If you're a positive, very positive person, and you've got just really good thoughts, and you're thinking in this positive way all the time, you're not going to be secreting cortisol in your system, which is very damaging to your organs and your body in general. It's a stress hormone, cortisol. So if you're a positive person, you stay away from the stresses and the damaging aspects of your physiology far more, which it automatically is very much a healer, in my mind, a replenishing and a healing kind of energy that can manifest in your body in a good way. If you were very negative at that time, I wonder if it would have healed the same way. You may have a good healing system anyway. You know, there's a few factors going on there. But you also, I know you have a team behind you as well, because I've met 2 of mine already in the last few months, and they're absolutely there to help you. I don't know how much energy they can send your way. I'm not familiar with that part of them yet, personally, but I'm thinking lots of energy is going to help the healing process physically in that circumstance.
Right. We do have, like, you know, an immune system that works for the body. And like you're saying, the less cortisol we're pouring into it, the more it's going to work. You know, that goes with that sacral chakra, that all those 7 candlesticks. I've done a video on those, but those are really tough ones to get balanced down there. You know, which is why I think that there's that inversion where, you know, the universe helps us by first giving us a crown, giving us that clarity so we can start working on those lower members. It's like we have to deny ourselves so we can find ourselves, so we can correct ourselves. That's how I see it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the body, the mind's going to mess with the body. Which would normally heal if the immune system's working very well. By the mind that's not working very well. It'll stop it by, you know, fear. And sometimes you have autoimmune diseases because of that, you know.
Yeah.
Which I think I have one that works against me and my joints. But I think that came from, I had encephalitis when I was a little kid. And so I had a lot of spinal taps. And I think they kind of messed with my immune system, you know. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. For the most part, I'm pretty healthy for my age. I don't, you know. But yeah, I agree with what he said. I've been healed a lot of times. It was like a miracle in a way, you know. But yeah, I think too, though, it's better to keep yourself healthy if you can mentally, to make sure you always have that. Right. And that comes from what you're talking about with, you know, learning how to meditate, keep your mind on the still, small voice, and know how to get there so that you can replenish. I think you replenish when you're there. You regenerate, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I say you get help from outside because I've recently had that proved to me that I couldn't have healed my own scar by myself because I didn't have enough knowledge on how to do that. Because I would have preferred to have grown up in India with yogis who know about how to deal with physiology from a yoga point of view, because that's what it would take for me to know how to do that and to do practices and meditations on that. and I didn't know that, and it was done for me. It was literally done for me. I didn't even have to do anything. And the advice was, it's okay, just don't do anything. We're going to do it for you.
Wow.
See, so that was it. That's what I got, and it actually worked. It actually worked.
That's wonderful.
So you,
I believe
you
there
do,
are, angels or help from, I'm sure. I don't deny that. I've had lots of experiences with extraterrestrial. I don't even know if they're extra. I don't know what they were, but I've had a lot of kind of encounters, especially the first few years when I hit the root, and then back in 2014 when I had to complete. I felt a lot of spiritual help. And like those movies, they just show up suddenly, and here they are, and you're like, who are you? And you're like, okay, you don't know who they are, and you don't know what to do with them, so you just kind of receive their help.
Yeah.
And I believe it's there when you need it, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, when you're ready to receive it.
Yeah, I feel as though that your attitude, it has something to do with it as well. Because a lot of people are so cynical about these things that they kind of cancel the potential, so they don't engage with that potential. But I'm open to it, and it works. I think partly because I'm open to it as well. But I'm aware of it.
Right.
So you mentioned extraterrestrials. One of the people in my soul group wasn't a person from Earth in their previous incarnation. As soon as they came in, I knew they were an extraterrestrial. I knew it instantly. And they appeared to me as a series of very high frequency, bright white sort of oscillatory lines. They didn't appear as a person, a normal person. It was a set of frequencies, as it were.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think those experiences are very individual as to what you need, what you they're kind of helpful. They're going to not try to scare you too much.
Yeah.
But I definitely knew, like, I didn't recognize them. They scared me. So I was afraid. Okay. I wasn't like, whoa, I'm so glad to see you. But I saw them, and I kind of closed my eyes because I didn't want to see them. But then I felt like their helpfulness, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And I don't think they were intrusive, but they were definitely helpful. And, and I saw visions of myself in different states, which made me realize that it was almost like I was given a picture of the goal that was being prepared for me, so that I could come out of this and not be lost in it and swallowed up by it forever. Jonah was thrown out of the web eventually. So
that's right.
And he did come though for a purpose, and that was to tell people there's a root, come back to it. And I think that's what I've been trying to do for like 28 years. And it's not easy because I don't think it's a pleasant story. I don't think it's a great invitation for most people. They kind of hear it in a negative way, which is maybe why it's kept a mystery or a secret. Because if it doesn't really help people to want to come closer, then maybe religion is where they need to be for the time being. Because if that brings them closer, then stay there. Because whatever you need to do to find your peace, your joy, your happiness, your healing, stay there. And when it's time for you to come out of that, believe me, you'll know. So that's why I keep taking my videos down. I'm like, people don't need to know your story. People need their story. Everybody needs their own story. That's how I feel sometimes.
Every time I go to share one of your videos, you take down your videos.
I'm sorry. I know. I get so concerned. I don't want to confuse people. I know what it's like to be confused, and I want to clarify, and I feel most of the time like that's not what I'm doing.
It's because of you, I've recently learned that, just because I've come to the understanding doesn't mean somebody else is gonna. And, so yeah, I totally get it now. And I didn't get it before, but now I do.
Yeah. And you want to help people, right? You don't want to make them more confused than they already are. I mean, don't you find I feel like it's really hard sometimes to talk about these things with other people?
Yeah. One of the issues is the depth of it. Once you hit on a subject, all of a sudden there are 1,000 questions. And if you move on to the answer to that question, there's 1,000 questions surrounding that as well. And you want to cover everything to make sure it's all there and they have a nice complete picture. But it takes so long to talk.
I know. And
keep talking about it.
Right? And before you know it, people are like tuning out. They're like, oh, that's enough. I don't want to hear any more of that.
That's right. So hence hence the idea of poignancy and parables that contain lots of information in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
And you can go away and have a think about it and realize the depth of the parable.
Right.
That's very powerful.
Yeah, that's what
Is
Jesus
that the reason
did,
why the Bible
actually.
is written in the way it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mostly Jesus used a lot of nature parables because a lot of this is about nature. It's about our inner nature, and we start identifying it as we experience it. And that's important. I mean, one of my videos is about how the earth is groaning, waiting for the manifestations of the sons of God, and how the earth is experiencing at the curse of the ego as like a a negative force. And like God's waiting for all of us to just come out of that so we can all just see it for what it is, which is really, everything's created for pleasure. Hard to believe. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, there's that side of life as well, because a lot of scriptures will tell you about suffering and the need for suffering, but effectively the suffering is to get you away from your ego.
Right.
Basically, to get you back into spirit so you can realize your bliss again.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yet that conflict, because you want to keep enough of your ego so you're protected and you want to give it up. And that's why you got to learn how to handle your own ego first. And then you can hopefully help others without being judgmental, without being overbearing, and all that good stuff, all that bad stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Well, what do you think? Look at him. He's not even paying attention to us.
No, I guess I should have went into this giving you the disclaimer that if I'm looking down at my phone and looking for questions. So I apologize.
Okay.
I'm paying attention to every word you're saying. And I was
just kidding.
Because people are coming at us in chat saying, well, so does poverty exist? Does, the negative aspects of our society, do they exist? Are all of this? And you just said that everything is for happiness. And I just wrote in chat, and mind you, YVONNE just lost her husband that she loved dearly. And she still said that. So, I mean, that gives a little perspective.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to very quickly say, if you think poverty is the cause of unhappiness, it's not necessarily the case. It's not what you've got, it's how you use it. It's what you do with what you've got. Look at Krishna's life. He failed at everything. So everyone would think, well, Krishna, who is, the Hindu version of God, how come he failed at everything? Well, it's not the point. Everybody is work in progress until they get to their bliss again. So it doesn't matter if you fail. It's what comes out of it. It's you're the one who outlives all these experiences.
Yeah.
So the point of it really is to get you to recognize your own divinity, effectively, after being born into a blank psyche, that knows nothing. It's a great discovery. People have forgotten the adventure side of it as well. It is a great discovery to discover that you have a unity with God, and that you can reunify with God.
Absolutely. My husband, we were together almost 50 years, and I mean, we went through so many things together, but one of the things that we both kind of found that meaning of, how the two, male and female, work together by being together for so long. We learned how to understand these energies and how to learn how to love above the ego, and how to, let the ego go away so we could save love. I think that's really important if you have a group or a relationship or somebody that can help you understand, why am I going through this? It's for love. If you don't ever really experience that reason, it stays very difficult, because nothing makes sense without love. I don't think it just, it's like nothing, is worth it without finding that.
Yeah,
that connection.
Absolutely. This brings us to the issue of meaningfulness. Love is meaningful.
Right.
Absolutely meaningful. Yeah.
It is. Absolutely. It's the only thing that lasts forever.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The truth that there is, emotional wise, in my opinion, is love. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's right.
And it's worth it only when, of course, it's hard to tell a kid, who wants candy in a candy store, and you say, no, you got to go home and eat your peas, right? That you need for your computer, Phil, right? But if, like, later he'll be like, oh, I'm glad you made me eat those peas. You know, they were really
Yeah.
good for me. Whereas
Yeah.
a candy really makes my teeth rotten. But I mean, that's a simple explanation. But I think, you know, we sometimes get lost in all the things we didn't get, and we would focus on them. And it's so hard to see what it is, what we have. And I think, if anything, love is always trying to point us to being grateful for what we have so that can grow. Because it says, he who has, more will be given.
Yeah.
So the more you have of love, the more love comes. The more you
Yeah.
have of hate, the more it comes.
Yeah.
You know, you want to get on that right side so that you can
That's
get
right.
more of that. You know?
That's right. And then there's, adding to that, there's a lot to be said for gratitude, a sense of gratitude for what you've already got, counting your blessings, realizing that, that there is always someone worse off than you, but that makes it sound competitive. It's just that no matter what you've got, you've got something if you've got anything. And you have yourself always as well.
Yes.
So being born in poverty, like you said earlier, is not necessarily a problem. I've never been rich or well off or really had anything that I wanted. I've never been able to have most of the things I've wanted out of desire. And I learned that in the end, when you make it yourself, you're going to have access to anything anyway. You exist forever anyway. You're gonna be able to experience whatever you want in the future anyway. So there's a great satisfaction in knowing that you exist eternally as a foundation. In my mind, that's a great comfort, in the sense that if I don't experience something now, and I quite enjoy the idea of an experience, like a place to go, then that's always available in the future anyway. So you end up not feeling as though you're missing out on anything, you see, because it's available to you at some point in your future anyway.
Right.
You know, what difference does it make?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's almost like the things that you're not that interested in is probably because you've already experienced them at some other life or some other time. And things that are really like, you know, you're chomping at the bit for them. It's, you're here to experience those things so that you can see, is this the truth or is this a lie? You know, or is this both? You know, like to find out the truth in it, in the kernel, you know. So people who are like, there is like, in my understanding, there's like this pressure that comes on the world when it's time for people to transform, and they don't want to, and they start getting crazy, and like everybody feels like, oh, I didn't get something, you know what I mean? It's like they almost feel like there's something missing, and they're afraid they're going to miss out on it, and it makes them very angry, you know. And that's a good time to go inward and try to get everything you can inside, because you probably won't find it out there because there's so much chaos at the moment. But once you get balanced, then, you know, you'll see that those opportunities are much easier to come by, because you'll be drawn to them, you know.
That's right. Absolutely true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spot on. Yeah, that's right.
So I feel sorry. I feel bad if people think that I think, you know, wow, all that stuff, all that suffering doesn't matter, because you don't know. I mean, I suffered with all of it, and my eyes are not closed to it. And there are times throughout the day where I'll cry for it. I really do. I cry, and I, you know, I myself experience, you know, it says Christ, for instance, experienced all this suffering with us. And I don't think, that's why I asked you if you feel like you suffer more. On the one hand, I feel like there is no suffering. But on the other hand, I'm also so much in touch with those who are still suffering. It's like this is that dual kind of existence that I have. And it's like, I want to just pull everybody into the peace and into the joy. But at the same time, they pull me into their suffering just as easily, it seems. And then all I have is just that inner peace. And sometimes I just get away from everybody because I need that, you know, I need to just pull away from that. But no, I definitely see it. And even if it's a delusion, it doesn't matter. Delusions hurt. They really hurt, you know. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, a suffering person wants you to suffer along with them, so they don't feel so bad about it. But really, they need to withdraw from their physical senses, as it were, and come to their spiritual sense. And then the suffering diminishes, and then they realize their spiritual sense is eternal, and then suffering diminishes even greater, even more. Even if you, knowing that, when I've had a physically suffering experience, I no longer suffered, because I knew several things about it, that it was temporary for a start, and I could imagine, how much pain am I going to feel now? Well, it's going to go to this extreme. I've had that before, I can handle it, I'll be fine. No
Mhm,
problem.
mhm.
So you just carry on the suffering, knowing exactly what's going to happen. It's going to come, you're going to come out of it anyway. There's no problem.
Right. Yeah, you can also, like, I suffer a lot physically. So you can transcend that to a large degree because you
Mm,
know that this is a temporary vehicle, so to speak.
mm,
And you are more than your body. You're even
yeah,
more than your mind.
yeah.
You're like you're saying, you're an eternal being, and
Mm,
you will. That goes on.
mm,
So you make the most of it. You can make the most of where you're at if you know that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So he's reading some more
Yeah,
questions.
Shines Like a Diamond asks, is it necessary or can you come to a reasonable understanding of enlightenment without seeing the light? Is it a requirement to pass the test, so to speak?
You want to go first, or do you want me to?
I want to say something.
Okay, go.
As I've said before, Steve, everything you see and hear around you in the outside world effectively is a suggestion. At the baseline, it's a suggestion until you've proved something to yourself. And for me, finding the light is the final proof of your eternal nature and the fact that God is real and true. That's you proving it to yourself. Telling someone else about it doesn't mean they know that for themselves. They need to prove it to themselves. You can read my book, for instance, or you could read the Bible if it's translated correctly by people like Yvonne and Bill Donahue, who does a very good job of that, and you'll get a very good sense of these higher things, which will bring you closer to it anyway. So you can get close to it intellectually, and you can understand quite a lot of it intellectually, but getting there yourself is an issue. Yeah, finding that narrow gate you must do for yourself, and all this understanding is going to help you with that.
Right. I don't know if this person is. That's good. I like that, Phil, and I agree with that. I don't know this person what kind of orientation he has or she has,
Mm,
but like there's, for instance, that Jesus said, or it says of him, he's the author and finisher of our faith. And when he authors our faith, he's saying, come follow me, and I'm going to show you where you're going. And when he finishes our faith, he's like making us one with himself. So
mm,
we no longer need a teacher. We no longer need to follow anything. We are one with the light.
mm,
But we have to follow something because everybody reads and everybody is searching. A big part of the journey is making sure you find the right thing, the right
mm,
teacher, the right person. But I have seen that if the student is ready, the teacher does come.
mm,
So however you're looking, I believe you'll be led to that where you're ready to receive, where you're ready
yeah,
to receive. So you're not going to see the full light until you're ready for it. But each step of the way, there is going to be a little part of the light because otherwise you wouldn't keep going.
yeah,
So the light is an unfolding process too, I believe.
yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's
right.
what you said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you guys
That's right.
pretty much been saying the same things, just from different perspectives and different angles of
Mm,
of the same issues. But yeah, what came to mind when that was said, what you guys are speaking, I just thought of that whole pyramid thing where we're all diamonds in a field of clay, and we start out with discernible information. We have to make comparisons with that to give us proportion, to give us measure, and then boom, then we finally understand what we truly are. Now, is that process the same for everybody? You know?
I think in some way it is, and I'm going to let Phil say how he sees it
yeah.
first because I bounce off him pretty good, so you do it.
Which I mean, everyone follows a unique path. Everyone's individual. They all have their unique way of getting to the same destination, effectively. So the destination's always the same, but you're going to do it in your own way. That's how I say that.
I agree with that. Because I was destined to find it through the Bible, but believe me, I went on a journey I followed so many different kinds of religions. I studied Jehovah's Witnesses, I studied Seventh-day Adventists, I studied Christian Science, and I just kept leaving because I kept feeling there was something missing. There was something missing. Well, what was missing was the truth in me, and it's like I needed to connect to it, and then I realized that I saw that where the truth was in all those paths and where it wasn't in there. You can only see what is and isn't the truth after you experience it for yourself. But I think you are led pretty much in all different kinds of directions, because the point of the journey is not just to find the truth, but to compare it to all the lies so that you can eliminate them. I think eliminating lies is a huge part of the satisfaction of finding the truth. For me, that's just me.
Yeah,
So I don't have to go
agree.
down those roads anymore. I don't have to go down those rabbit holes anymore.
Yeah, that's right. I agree.
I can attest to what Phil said earlier. I'm haven't achieved enlightenment, quote unquote. But recently, I've learned to be grateful more than resentful, and to not concern myself with the negative aspects of everything. Because it can become overwhelming. And my question is are the negative aspects of our reality set before us for our hurdles for us to jump over to get to the finish line? Is it incumbent upon them hurdles to be hopped over to get to the finish line? You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I hate answering before you, Phil. I don't know what that is. I just I just want you to answer first. Go ahead. What do you think? Negative, so that you can see the positive better?
Yeah, I mean, everything is the same thing in different degrees. So you can't say that thing over there is bad, or it's an obstacle is a terrible thing. Learning how to overcome an obstacle is a learning experience, and that's a wonderful discovery for you. If you knew everything the moment you were born, there'd be no point in living. You see what I mean? So the discovery is part of the joy of discovery.
Yeah, but what I was getting at was like the George Floyd situation, which happened, by the way, in my hometown where I live, and the rioting and all that nonsense, and the negative of that brings, all of the aspects of that, like if I was a shop owner and that happened to me, is that set before me as a hurdle for me to overcome to become, you know what I mean by that?
It depends how you take it. It depends how you react, how you see it. That reaction is that's a psychological reaction those people are having. It's a knee-jerk reaction. It's not a spiritual response.
Right. And like we had to process. I had to process all this. I didn't just look at it and go, "Oh wow, it's real clear to me what's happening." No, I had to go through my processing. But some of the things that I saw, besides all the ideas that there was political forces involved and it had nothing to do with anything spiritual, but spiritually people are affected in the sense that they had to look at all these things, whether they were going through it or not, and it gave them a sense of like angst and anger, about the situation, and it brought things to the surface that people need to deal with. And for me, what I saw is that, for instance, racism. Here's this short little thing about me and racism. This morning, I thought about it, and I thought, one of the things that we can all learn to do, because me being a fat woman most of my life, right, is like I can go around and be mad that the world sees me as a fat person, or I can say, you know what, it's not their problem. I got to fix it. And the thing is, nobody can fix it for me. And I think racism is like the Black community needs to be supported in dealing with their problems, that they have the power to fix them. Everything is given to them, just like everybody else. They just have to see themselves as powerful. And all we can do is support them in that, and not judge them in how they process it. That's the best we can do, because we're all suffering from all the problems of the world, right? So, and then I thought, well, this is true for everything. All we can do is support people in their process. Don't judge them. Let them do it in their pace. Love them through it. And then, be like, I don't know, give them a gold star when they get there. I don't really know. They don't need it after that, But then we'll just, I don't know, we'll just all be glad that we got through our crap together. That's how I see it now. I don't think we can do anything for other people. I can't do anything for myself without getting centered. So what am I supposed to do for everybody else?
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I understand the fear, because whether you're there or whether you're not, we all experience that fear at some time with something, like our health or people dying or whatever. But
yeah. Well, when the police have authority and they can't be trusted, all of a sudden you don't know which police are to be trusted or not, and yet they still have the authority. So that's a scary position.
Oh, it is. It's horrible.
It is. Psychologically, it's very frightening. But I think some people attract attention from the police as well, and then jump up and down complaining about it as if they had nothing to do with it. That there's a great big mixture of all sorts of things going on, that all of a sudden, if you're colored, you're going to say, well, any attention from the police is a bad thing. Even if you were driving down the road with your music blaring, if you could drive down an elderly residential area and you wake everybody up at 1 o'clock in the morning, the police are going to have a word with you. And if you complain about that, you're the one who is in the wrong. But you can use that and say, look, it's because I'm colored that you're stopping me. But do you know what I mean? Because I've seen things like that where they do complain.
There's stuff like that. And that is an issue for sure. That's an issue for any person who's breaking the law. They're not going to like it when the police are around.
Yeah.
But even if you're not, if you know that people are going to look at you a certain way, you're going to get defensive. That's just human nature. That's part of our ego nature.
Yeah. Go ahead. I was just going to say, just in case anyone thinks that I thought that was okay, that the George Floyd thing, that was blatant murder, I'm afraid.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody in their right mind would have thought that was okay. I mean, and the thing is, I was listening to this Black lady's podcast this morning where she was like totally going the opposite, and just really kind of, I thought, boy, she's going to get a big backlash. She was a beautiful young woman, and I, and she was like, most of the, black on black killing, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I thought, that's not the point either, because the point is that even if, like, it's my fault that I'm fat, for instance, and that I got an eating disorder, I got there because of the way I was raised, the way that I, with reality was imposed on me. You can't help what you're born into, right? But it is your job still to find the solution. Along, at some point it's on you. And I think that just made me realize, wow, all I ever needed was just room, a chance to, just stop allowing myself to be judge number one. That's kind of on me too. I mean, that's on us. We got to get to a point where we just don't let that happen to us.
Self-love.
So we can grow in our own way, in our own pace, and don't worry about how other people see it. That's their business.
So self-respect, self-love, very important.
Right, self-respect, self-love. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's all I got on that. I mean, it's such a heavy. We've heard so much on it lately, But what can we really say to that unless we are in the situation? I try to walk a mile in somebody's shoes before I'd say too much about their experience. I don't think anybody wants to walk a mile in my shoes to get what I got. Although I'm very grateful, believe me. But it was hard. It was hard getting here.
Yeah.
So I understand that part of it.
Yeah, it can be. Absolutely.
Is that it? Look at me wanting to wrap things up all the time. Is that it?
It's edging into lateness for me, just to let you know.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, if Phil's eyes are looking heavy here.
I was asleep. I didn't sleep much the last 2 nights, so I'm starting to, fall asleep at this sort of time.
Right.
Well, we want you to get sleep, Phil.
Well, they said this protest thing has gone global. Has any of that stuff happened where you live, Phil?
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
Maybe our final thoughts could be on why that's happening. Why do you think it's gone into the collective consciousness of everybody? And is it because we were all concentrated on COVID? And have you heard that they said he was tested positive for COVID-19 too?
Didn't know that.
And his words in the whole situation was, "I can't breathe."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, isn't that quite peculiar? I mean,
Right, but the issue is that he was basically murdered by an authority
oh, he was murdered.
figure.
I agree
That's
with that.
it.
Totally.
You know, no matter what he had, no matter what,
Right,
because he
right.
had.
But my point
I
is,
heard he
why do you
was
think it's gone global?
Yeah, I know. I heard he'd taken a methamphetamine pill earlier or something, and you know he self-medicated. But a lot of people do that anyway, so it's not a big. It's not the issue. It's the fact that he was killed, and I think that's what people are up in arms about. That the fact that an authority figure, even though he hasn't got away with it, is in a position where advantage of people. That I think that is what people are saying. Do not take advantage of people if you're in a position of authority. That's the message in my mind that I get from all this.
And also, like, think about this. Like, we've been locked up for months, and the authorities telling us what to do. Don't go here, don't go there, wear face masks, you know, don't stand too close. It's like this, it was like a catalyst that just, you know, we just were like, we're not listening to authority, and he's the proof that it's bad. That's what I think part of it was. Not everything, but
you
know,
we can see that.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. That's exactly essentially what I was getting at. Was I think, you know, it has to do with both. And yeah, you're totally right about the authority. People in positions of authority should learn to or should be checked or check themselves, or, you know, not be in the position in the first place. So I agree. But yeah, guys, thank you very much.
Nice talking to you, Phil.
Hey,
my pleasure. It's a great pleasure talking to you, Yvonne. Thanks.
Okay, guys, I'm going to see you, and I will say goodbye and bless you all.
Bless you too.
Keep being
Take care,
happy.
Yvonne.
Okay. Take care.
Take it easy. Yeah, thanks, Phil. Thanks, Yvonne. And everybody in chat, thank you. I really appreciate you joining us. There's a link for Yvonne's channel, and a link for Phil's channel will be in the description. He's got his link for his book, and it's a free PDF, or you can buy it like I did. I have a copy of it right here. You probably, yeah, there you go. The Ascension Handbook. Can you see it? My background is giving me problems, but it's a hell of a book to have. No pun intended. But thanks again.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.